And we are returning to you, our wonderful audience, to share a fantastic guest. You may have seen a video I posted earlier this weekend about our guest. She is a wonderful author and philosopher, lady philosopher. Her name is Cameo T. Clark. And she is a lady philosopher who has been educated and studied philosophy and now has experienced a massive esoteric gift from the universe and from a lot of divinity forms and her guides in the form of this book to help us kind of understand. The name of the book is The Elephant in the Room, The Innerstanding of Our Existence. So that is the truth of our existence. So this is really, I think, something that we all have a lot of existential questions right now. I know you do, Firewalker. Or
Indeed,
usually when we
we
get
all do.
together, you do. Yeah. Okay. So
Yes, of
yeah.
course. Yeah, I
So
have a
there's
couple of questions about about that
right
guy.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right. So
yeah, for
no,
sure.
you could use some of this right here.
Yes,
And quite
yes.
honestly, I think this is a time where we're all kind of wondering, what does it all mean right now? Whatever your inclinations may be, or your religious, spiritual, or existential connections, you may be wondering, how does it all fit into my life and what the scope is. So, Cameo, welcome.
Thank you so much. Namaste to both of you.
Namaste.
It is
Indeed,
Namaste.
indeed.
what
Thank
a
you.
what a
Namaste.
time to be alive is kind of
Oh,
my favorite
USA, USA.
caption these
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
And definitely, I definitely would agree with
Hmm.
you that things are
Mm-hmm.
changing.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people are aware, very aware that things are changing, but there is some anxiety around what are we changing to? Where
Mm-hmm.
are we going? What is the landscape actually going to look like once a lot of these shifts and things like that have
I,
occurred? So
I kind of feel like it has like a late 60s sort of vibe, like 69-ish sort of vibe.
hmm well,
You know.
history and our existence here on the planet is very cyclical. So history
Mm-hmm.
does in fact repeat itself. That's not just a saying. It's actually a cosmic truth. So
Sure.
That's
It's
why
Summer of
cargo
Love
shorts
Part 2.
happened again. Too.
I'm
Yeah, a
sorry, what'd
lot
you
of.
say?
I was just saying, like Summer of Love Part 2 is kind of coming back, where
Right.
it's an influx of um, energies that people aren't really ready to deal with, but they're coming anyway. And here we
Whether you
are,
like it
just
or not.
riding that wave. Yeah. Now, some of us
Just
have been
like
talking
cargo
about this.
shorts happened again. That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Just like,
I know. You
yeah,
never know
yeah.
what's going to
Whether you
come back
wanted
to
it
bite
to
you.
or not, you
Yeah,
would be happy
Right.
about that. So yeah.
yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Okay,
is
so
one of the key takeaways too from all of this. At the
Mhm.
end of it all, it's all happening whether we want it to or not. So you need to
yeah,
get with it, ride the wave, figure it out, find your happy place, your safe space, how you're going to
Yeah.
get through it. But the only way
Complaining
through
never
it is,
does it for
yeah,
me.
yeah,
I'm not a complainer. I really just like, you got to just
yeah.
pivot or figure out how to work with it or work around or
hmm
get your guides involved. Who are your guides?
Yeah, I'm one of those kind of
Who's helping you out?
rare birds that enjoys change. I love change and kind of doing
Mhm.
different things every day, kind of a nomad at heart, traveling
Mhm.
around, all that good stuff. So,
He had a cat named Nomad for a minute.
I
oh,
did. When I saw you that on the book, the nomad thing, I was like, "What's happening, buddy?" And I'm a fellow nomad too. So
yeah,
let me ask you this, because we like to start
sure.
sometimes by asking somebody what their magical origin story is. So what
Mm.
was it in your early life, or whenever it was, that sparked you to completely, maybe shift away from what you might have been raised with, and just enter the mysteries and look into all of these things that brought you to this place?
Yeah, so okay, so from a very, very young age, I was smothered in the bosom of the Baptist church growing up. And so, probably 5 or 6 years old, I'm sitting there and literally kind of looking. I can remember looking to the right and then looking to the left, like, are y'all buying this? Like very early on, when the preacher was saying, this is the only way. I'm like, well, what about all these people in these far
Where
off lands?
was your family native to Atlanta or from elsewhere?
No, I actually was born and raised in Northern California, in
Oh,
Sacramento.
okay.
So my
Oh.
family on my dad's side is originally from Mobile, Alabama, in Great Park,
Hmm.
and then on my
Hmm.
mother's side, they're from a little small town in southern Indiana.
So when you
So
say Northern California, are we talking
Sacramento.
Oh, Sacramento. Okay, very
Hmm.
Back
nice.
town
Yes.
from there. All right, there we go.
Sacktown, yes. And so from a very young age, I knew that a lot of this was
Mm-hmm.
BS. I kind of knew somewhere in my spirit
Mm-hmm.
that there was a book, but kind of just like, oh, I don't know what, I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
what it would be or what I would have to talk about in a book. Loved books, loved to read.
Mm-hmm.
So grew up in the church. And so I was very sheltered, like sheltered to the point that I was not allowed to have, relationships. I wasn't allowed to have, normal,
Wow.
boyfriend, go to, I
So,
never went to any homecoming dances in high school, no proms, anything like that. So my goal in high
mhm,
school was to get the hell out the house. And so I
I
worked
would
very
imagine.
hard, took
Mm-hmm.
zero, eight extra classes at the junior college, whatever, graduated when I was 16 so that I could go and just live because I knew that this was not it. I knew within my spirit that how I was living, like they were like my family, loved my family, great people, but this was not it. And so when I got to college, I left and was accepted on early entrance to Spelman College. And I originally started out as a math major, but I was taking like an intro to
Oh.
philosophy class just to fulfill a core requirement. And that was like eureka. I was like, oh, this is it. This is me right here. Oh, yay, I can be spiritual and not religious. Really? Oh, yes. Like it
Did,
was like I found my tribe, found my people,
mhm.
and I, studied philosophy at Spelman. And
Can I
then
ask you about
sure.
Spelman? Did they have a pretty broad, they're very famous for culturally vibrant schools. So did they have a
Yeah.
broad like esoteric or religious
So,
studies?
Spelman is the number one liberal arts college in the country
Hmm.
for women, for the
Love that.
historically black colleges, also
Yeah.
for,
Hmm.
they've got a number one ranking for a
Hmm.
lot of different things. But in
Sure.
hindsight, and as I have traveled the world and
Hmm.
learned a lot of esoteric truths and other things along
Hmm.
my own philosophical journey, I would have to unfortunately answer that question with a no.
Oh,
They were
so.
not as broad as they could be. It was very
Hmm.
standard. The philosophical offerings were very standard.
Hmm.
The history, ancient history, modern history, as
So
we
you
call
got
it.
your Greeks and you got your
You got your
that
standard Greeks, your Plato, your five
yeah, yeah.
dialogues, things like that. There was
Yeah,
no
yeah.
Madame
That it was
Helena
like that at
Blavatsky
UCLA
in the
too. You know what I
mix.
mean?
There was
Yeah.
no Madame Blavatsky. There was no Alan Watts. There was nobody that's
Mhm.
currently at the forefront of thought leadership and
Mhm.
esoteric knowledge and things like that. So no,
Yeah. When I went
but
to
I'm going to
college,
try to change
yeah.
that.
When I went to college, they had philosophy, they had all kinds of stuff, but it took me like 5 classes, and I had already just done all the interesting classes in philosophy and religion, and I was so bored. And that's when I was reading all kinds of other stuff, and I actually just left college. Like, I think I'm just going to read the books at my house because I'm so bored.
Like, why am I going to pay you all this money
Yeah.
when I can go
Yeah.
do some actual research? Yeah.
All three of us on this pod today are voracious readers. I can say
Yes.
that, with a lot
Yes.
of clarity, So, and I gave myself, like you said earlier before we started, you mentioned having your own curriculum. I
Hmm.
always have a nonfiction book, a fiction book, and a nonfiction or two that I'm always going in a circular motion with it since
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I can remember. Yeah.
During times when I was going through what I call, because we're always spiritually awakening and ascending and all those
Hmm.
things, but during
Hmm.
times when I consider myself going through what I consider heavy activation, live activation, I always
Hmm.
had a book or two in my purse or carrying, a
Hmm.
numerology book or a
Yeah.
this or a that, or yeah, just always with the book, just absorbing, absorbing, absorbing. So
I miss those
yeah.
times actually when I was like, you know, having
Hmm.
some kind of just mind-blowing experience on a Tuesday, and then Wednesday was totally different. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah, and
it
it's
was my
yeah,
early
and
20s. There was just so much going on, download after download after,
yeah, I agree with that
seeing
because
1111 everywhere.
I was
Yeah.
saying the other day to myself, like, gosh, I do miss those moments, those kind of like aha moments, because
Hmm.
during this season of downloading this book, I was really, really in a hermit mode, head down, really with no other focus, but, pushing this information through. And so, after sitting writing and writing and writing and writing, I don't want to see a book. I don't want to see anything. Even after I published this book, I put it down. I didn't even look at it for like, even when after it came in the mail, I like opened it up and I said, "Oh, this is so pretty," and I put it on the shelf. And I was like, "I don't like y'all. Please leave me alone now for just a little while." So It's
I can
downloading a book.
relate.
It's fun, and it's humbling, and it's a beautiful cosmic experience to receive downloads from the universe. But it is not what I would consider fun, when these fun in the moment type of things. It's very intense. It's very unsettling and kind of disturbing to
Yeah,
your,
no, it
whatever
is.
your level of groundedness
I
is.
asked you that the other day. I asked you,
Yeah,
what was the process like? And you're
Yeah,
saying that
it
it's
was
very.
challenging.
and
Yeah.
I guess what happened, what ended up happening initially, and every spark, what I always say, I love that one of my favorite songs has those lyrics. I can't remember the name of it, but it's you can't start a fire without a spark. And so what
Dancing
Oh
in
always
the
yeah, that's
dark
some
by
Bruce
sparks,
Bourbon St.
Springsteen over there.
okay,
Yeah,
yes, that is like one
Dancing
of
in
my
the
I'm
dark.
favorite
on
songs. Like I
fire,
know like all the words, but um
dancing
what
in the dark.
sparks, yes, what sparks
Yeah, I
inquiry, what
said that too.
sparks you going within, what sparks these things are usually questions. And so someone had asked me a question. I was out showing some properties. It was actually a client I had from China, this Black lady from China, ironically. And she came over here and wanted to look for some houses. And she just asked me, we were riding in the car, and she asked me, she said, why is there so much mental unwellness in the United States?
Oh.
And at that moment,
Imagine
it's just
being a
such a
foreign
loaded
person coming
question.
here and asking that question. Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
loaded question. And so, but
Yeah.
anyways, that question kind of, I don't know, it kind of somehow stayed over here. And so I sat down one day, and I've always been a heavy doodler, like to the point of incessant thinking I had some sort of condition, or like I just couldn't stop. And so I sat down one day thinking I was getting ready to write something else. I think thought I was going to go to law school or try to, do something. So I was sitting down to write a personal statement. And then all of a sudden, this outline of answering that question came out. It was this really academically outlined download that just I was just writing, and then I looked up and I was like, whoa,
Well,
this, and then
well,
that's when I
what
realized,
is the answer to that question?
Yeah, like
oh,
what you
this
said.
is a book. This is the book.
Right.
Oh,
The
what is
answer
the
is the book.
answer?
The book is the
Right.
answer. Oh, then
Right.
Yes,
there it is.
the
Okay.
answer was everything I downloaded from the book, but it came out first in an outline, and that's when I
Well,
realized, like, ooh,
so Cameo. We want to know where we can find this book, just in case someone, if they gotta jump out of the pod and they're in the
oh
middle of
yeah,
it.
you can
Where could
find
they
it on
find this book?
Amazon. You can find it on
Okay, great.
Amazon. It still gets
hmm
shipped from me. It's not printed by Amazon, but you can. Some people are more comfortable purchasing through Amazon, or you can
Purchasing
go
on
to
Amazon. Okay, and a lot of people are sure. hmm
or you can go to theredpillbook.com
So
and
the
find out more
understanding
information
the
about
truth of
me.
our existence.
hmm
How okay, so for someone now the book is kind of, and I noticed there's a lot of pages for notes, so it's kind of like a workbook in a sense. Is that correct?
hmm Almost like a
Is that
lesson
fair to say?
plan. Yes.
So it's an interactive experience, and it's like, so by the end of the book, and it's not a mammoth tome of any sort. So, but
hmm
by the time you get to the end of it, we'll have kind of peeled back the onion of understanding to some degree. Is
Correct.
that fair to
Yes.
say?
There's a lot of,
Yeah.
there's what I downloaded. There's place for you to write and be introspective. I've also brought incorporate, you'll find little QR codes throughout the book that are links to other people's wisdom and other people's podcasts or information, just to kind of tie everything together. So it's not just me
And I love that.
spilling
I
all
love the
that out. Yeah.
interactive and the QR codes for all that. That's fantastic.
All right. I
hmm
have a question.
Sure.
To start with, um, the six-pointed star on your head, right?
Yes.
What is going on with that? Now, I read a little bit about it, of course, and I know a ton about it, but I would like to hear
hmm
you tell the story of that and its placement and importance to you, because I think that would be a cool thing to talk about.
So, so during the download journey, there was, this doesn't come without some sort of cost or penance. You don't just receive without also having to give or to do, or, in some way surrender to the process. And so during the journey, probably, I guess I would say about 6 months in to all the downloads, I was actually where I am now. Right now, I'm in Chicago. And at that time, I happened to be in Chicago, with a friend, and she was going to get a tattoo. And I was there was a little wilderness behind the hotel where we were staying at. And long story short, I kept getting this like, you need, this nudge that I needed to get a tattoo. And I wasn't sure. And I knew that it was something that was going to be protective, but I still wasn't sure. And kept getting signs, and I kept like, no, I don't know about that. I just kept kind of like, I don't know about that. And so anyway, on the way to the, and the girlfriend that I was with, she can testify to all of this, but on the way to her going to the tattoo place, and we went to that Black Ink, if you're familiar with the Black Ink cruise series, on the way there, I kept saying to the universe, look, I don't, because my head kept throbbing right here in the center, and I'm not a headache person, and so that to me was the signal that this was where they wanted me to tattoo this
And that's where
image.
your head chakra or third eye is as
My
well.
third, that is where their eye is, but I kept
Yeah.
saying, no, can we do it back here? Can we do it somewhere, off site?
Mhm.
I wasn't really the type of person that ever thought I would tattoo my forehead. And so anyway, and I just said on the way to the tattoo parlor, I said, you know what? If this is what you want me to do, I need to see a direct sign, and it needs to be clear as, like, it needs to be ultra clear. And we walked into the tattoo shop. This was the only symbol on the wall. And I was like, oh, damn.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So then I said to them being the guides and whatever, then I said to them, okay, if you want me to do this, it needs to be painless. Because I will tap out. I'm not really a heavy tattoo person. I'm not, inked up everywhere. And so, and literally I got in the chair and it felt like a Crayola crayon was going on to my head. I felt literally
Really?
almost of nothing.
Oh.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah, I
that's when
remember when I got
yeah,
my
I was
wrist
heavily
tattooed.
driven to do it. Yeah.
When I got my wrist tattooed, they said, "Oh, this might be a humdinger," and it wasn't painful at all. It was like surprising. Um,
But yeah,
so
so
I,
it was just
so Cameo.
it was a push, and I knew that it was symbolic in some way and very significant to my future.
So may I ask, this is not a Star of David. This looks like almost. Is that at the back of the book right here?
Yeah, it's more
That's
the
the
Merkaba.
Merkaba. Right.
Most people do mistake my tattoo for the Star of David, or someone
Oh,
asked me
it's
the other
not a
day,
Star
was
of
it the
David. Oh, I
Seal of
see.
Solomon?
Okay,
Technically it's not. It's
I
the
knew
star,
this wasn't
it's
a
the
Star of
Merkaba.
David when I looked at it,
Yeah, it's the
and I know
Merkaba
it's
or the
not a
star
universal
tetrahedron.
hexagram either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna try to, I guess, how can you give us a window into when someone picks up this book, what can they expect, and can you give us kind of a window into some of the main points that are going to be fleshed out in the book, so someone would know what to expect to some
Yeah, so
extent.
my understanding, once I started really started putting the book together, I after all the downloads came through over a series of a couple of
Hmm.
years, I had notebook upon notebook, stacks and stacks of just handwritten stuff. And so when I started putting it together, I realized that what it was supposed to be, essentially was kind of a divine pre-disclosure. So I think most of us in the esoteric community know that some disclosures and some things are coming down the pipeline at
Hmm.
some point here. And so it's a book for those who are on the cusp, for those who are kind of, uh, they're wanting to kind of awaken and remember things, but not quite there. It's kind of that activation. And what the book does is it goes through the who, what, when, where, why, and how of our existence. And so by the time you get through it,
Hmm.
you should have a better understanding of who you are, how you relate to the universe, and how to channel and go within to figure out what your path, because this is like earth school. We're here, this is like a school, and every school has an assignment. Okay, so everybody's assignment is different, everybody is here to do a different thing, and so hopefully at the end it will give you some greater insight, and you will be able to align yourself with your highest path and reconnect. Really, it's a reconnection with your higher self.
And then you talked about the physical body as being an avatar. Can you go
Mm-hmm.
explain that a little bit as well?
Yeah, so in order to I do go into the book, this is a simulation. Earth is not it's not just Earth. It's actually, a simulation. The you, that's the real you, is actually a star up there in the sky. You're a projected unit of consciousness down here. Just like if you were to go into an AI simulation now, you would put on a thing or some sort over your head, some sort of mechanism, some sort of goggles to be able to interact with the simulation. So our avatars are basically what I consider our earth suits. We have to put on an earth suit in order to feel, be here, and interact with earth. And the only way to be earth or to be birthed, I think I used the word, I spell it
Terrestrial?
BEARTH. But yeah, you have to be birthed into the simulation. You don't just pop in
Hmm.
like
Sure. You talked with me about the word matrix. You
Mhm.
said you had a philosophy about escaping the matrix or a buzzword. Can you remind me of that?
Because
We talked about
I
it when you
feel
were.
a little bit trapped in it personally.
You
Yes.
look like
And I
So
what your
wanted
background looks like. You do
I
look,
wanted
yeah,
to know
yeah.
what the matrix, yeah, what it represents to you, and how do I get out of this thing?
I'm
Please.
trying to
yes.
remember the
So
buzzword you used when you were here
oh, it
for
was
your reading.
expats. So like just like you have expats, people who
Right.
leave the country and give up their citizenship.
Uh-huh.
An expat is a person who recognizes what the matrix is and chooses not to be swayed, not to be guided. So essentially the book is for, so an expat is a person who's left the matrix. The person who's still really in the matrix and doesn't even realize that there is a matrix or thinks the matrix is just a movie. Those are NPCs. Those are the people who are non-player controlled in the simulation. The if you've ever played video games, they're the people in the background that are maybe a little bit gray and they just kind of bump along in the back and they move with
Um,
the video game and
I'm,
they just feel
I
safe.
might. Firewalker, do you know what she's talking about? Do I need to help you with this? Because I don't know when the
No,
last time you played an RPG.
I
Are you,
appreciate that. I do, but no, I understand what she's talking
okay,
about.
okay.
And I think
It's
the
the guy
idea
at
is
the
like,
tavern that's like, "Welcome to
right,
the tavern. We have
right.
many fine ales and
Yes,
things."
yes.
Yeah,
So I
it's
think the
that there's
question
a
is,
dwarf and he's like, "Hello."
what do you define as the matrix?
So the matrix is it's hard to define, and I talk about that in the book about the limitations of language and in trying to define certain things. But it's the construct. It's all of the thought patterns, the beliefs, the systems of programming. It's our language, our education, our religion. Colonization is a big matrix umbrella. It's basically your framework for how life should be lived. And it's usually a framework that was created for you. It's not a framework that you establish for yourself based upon alignment with your highest vibrational timeline.
Okay, so
It's basically given to you.
in the movie, what we're looking at is you're a battery and you don't realize that you're being juiced by something outside of you that's using your work, your energy, your time to usurp energy from you, and you're just powering something you're not even aware of that's beyond you, that's been
Correct.
using you since birth. So
Oh.
that idea would be our
Correct.
upbringing, our indoctrination, our education systems, how we use our medical, how we don't use anything from the folk traditions, and it's all just pharmaceutical. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot of these ideas that are out there right now, and
Right.
I think it's important to talk about, definitely, to give power back to the people and away from what people would consider the rulers of the matrix. And I'm
Yeah.
completely down with all of
And that's
that.
why
So
that does kind of answer. The matrix is probably why you have so much mental unwellness, because you're born into this system, and now you're finding, like, with the current generation and the new humans that are coming on the scene. They're coming in with lights on, and they're rejecting a lot of this matrix programming and a lot of these old ideologies, and choosing things that are just more in alignment with soul, more with heart. And you can often tell, the matrix ideologies are usually driven by ego in most cases. They're not usually powered by soul or high vibrations. It's
Well,
usually a
like when
very low
Purdue
vibration.
put out
It's a low
OxyContins.
vibrational
Well,
suppression of the human
right,
soul and the
right.
human experience.
I got you. So, like when
Hmm.
Purdue put out OxyContins and they knew they could easily knock out like 200,000 people, they did it anyway because it's a
right,
force of ego and money
right,
too, but ego. Like because I can't. Like who's gonna tell me no?
right.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
It's big pharma city, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
the idea
Yeah.
of wanting power instead of wanting connection and community.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
Right.
just like with Big
you know,
Pharma, like I was telling someone the other day, my son, he decided to be a research scientist instead of like a doctor, because he felt like All doctors do now is prescribe. They don't actually heal. You know, you get a treatment plan. You don't get a healing plan. So I am thrilled to see a lot more of the organic and shamanistic type healers and light workers and things like that really stepping up on the scene. You're seeing a lot more people turn to those mediums and modalities of healing.
My
So
two favorite vocations that I respect highest of any of my clients and people that I know are nurses and educators, hands down.
yeah,
They do more. Now I don't mean
yeah.
the doctors. The doctors are there for you, but
Yeah,
they
the
fill out
nurses
a,
are more
you
the
know, they talk to you
caregivers.
for 2
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah. And I
yeah.
feel so
And
bad,
they're
you know,
dealing with
speaking
the
of
emotions.
teachers, yeah, and speaking of teachers, you know, it's really unfortunate because I think that the majority of people who enter the field of teaching or educating, they do so with an earnest and a
Sure. Yep.
heartfelt desire to really help. And then unfortunately they get trapped into, because education is really just part of the matrix. Education is not set up for learning, it's set up for compliance. It's set up to get us ready for the workforce. So if you're, especially if you're in public education, and I touch a little bit on it in the book. I'm more for like a Montessori or like a prairie nature school type of environment that takes each child where they're at and helps develop and grow them. But yeah,
Philosophy
teachers get
would
it
not
real bad
apply to
these days.
that paradigm that you're talking about. Philosophy would not apply to that because it's about learning about our existence. So you definitely went for the path that would not fit into a matrix type thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes and no. I think there's room and space for everything. Like I've always felt like
Mhm.
growing up, I've always felt like science, religion, and philosophy were never really saying they just seem like these like polarized things, but they really, if you really look at it on a high level, they're really all saying the same thing, just from a different perspective, just from a different purview.
Right, but
So
my point is philosophy isn't getting ready to put you out in the workforce unless you're going to be a professor who's teaching philosophy. It's
oh yeah, no.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
saying. It's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
bold
No.
choice as
Yeah, it's
well.
definitely
No.
more for it's for the individual attunement and illumination.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of
Yeah.
those path workings definitely were quote unquote hidden by the matrix rulers, and kept in secret schools. And then, they said, oh, the esoteric people are bad. Don't listen to them. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
they're using esoteric practices to do all their
Yeah.
things, and
And you
this
know, and in
psych
ancient back
warfare
in
and the media.
yeah, back in ancient times it was the philosophers who kind of guided humanity and kind
Sure.
of
Yeah.
it told people what to do, and then now here comes religion, and now that's the, you know, and then the philosophers got kind of moved out of the way because religion was more about control and fear and, you know, things
Am
of
I
that
am I
nature.
wrong, or was Socrates considered the wisest person like in civilization in his time for a certain time period?
I don't know about Socrates. I'm more of a fan of Plato, but you know.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about history. I'm not talking about
Yeah,
like
I, you
opinion.
know,
I'm
I
saying.
couldn't say yes. I couldn't say
Uh,
yes or no. I mean, there's other philosophers like
I mean, people
Voltaire and
traveled
things like
from
that that have.
anywhere to go consult him. And that's
Definitely a very
yeah.
famous philosopher, sure. I mean, people
Yeah,
would go to Aquinas and other occult philosophers later and
Mhm.
see more intrigue in what they said. And it's like Pythagoras, they taught math in school, but they didn't teach the
yeah.
esoteric Pythagoras,
I know
except for unless you're
that was one of my
interested,
best
right?
friends in a past life. Oh, Thaggy, I
Right.
miss him. But yeah, as far as who was the wisest, I think that, you know, history is written from a certain perspective. So
Sure.
that may be what's written at you know, or what's communicated or passed down in certain traditions, but
Well, I
may
wanted
or
to
may not be.
communicate this. I was surprised to find out what kind of flow and what kind of respect that these philosophers got back in the day.
Hmm.
Because as somebody that does like real, like can manifest and move things around and change,
Hmm.
like they were just bringing ideas into your consciousness, and they were considered like total mega rock stars.
Yeah, they
And I
were,
think
and
that's
they were
super.
of the few that could actually read and write and things like that. That was
Yeah,
during a time when most
yeah,
people were illiterate and things like that.
hmm
That's
yeah.
one thing I always really do wonder about. Not to get off on a tangent, but about the Bible is like who was
I
really
mean,
writing these things? Because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were all illiterate. They couldn't write anything. So I'm always curious who were the actual writers of a lot
the
of these ancient
Babylonian,
texts.
the Jews that went to Babylon and wrote the Bible. that were crabby at the Egyptians. Yeah, those are the guys. Yeah, from
And then
what
it
I
got
what I
rewritten
understand.
at the Council of Nicaea by Roman
Yeah,
control, and they put it out as
there you
a,
go. Yep,
you know,
Yeah.
yep.
don't tell people this part that says you could do it all yourself and it's all within you. Let's keep that to the
Oh,
side.
exactly.
No,
Exactly. And
That's
that's
the
totally.
what I
matrix
talk
right
about.
there. That's the source
Yeah.
energy. They're like, let's just separate that. That's that
Yeah, and
moment. That's
I
like the
talk about that
creation
in
of the
great
matrix.
detail. Yeah, I go into great detail on that as far as, when religion, when during that time, the Council of Nicaea and all that, it was this parent, child parent relationship. We had to have this earthly parent, kind of a
Mhm.
middleman thing. Yeah, they don't want you to know. And that was one thing as a child that I always recognized, because being involved in the church so heavy, I always noticed that the preacher, before he would come out to give his sermon, he would go back in the back and he would sit and he would meditate and he would do these like ritual things, but he never came out and told us how to do these ritual things and how to connect.
Mhm.
It was just, here, this is what I'm going to tell you. And I was just like, no, I want to do what he's
Gatekeeping,
doing back there in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
gatekeeping.
So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. But it's great. I think that there's a lot of times shift and change has to happen. So like now you've got a lot more people moving towards like that organic spirituality, and we kind of have COVID to thank for that, because I think COVID was like a real serious breaking point for a lot
It
of
did.
people with actually
Mhm.
physically going to church. And a lot of people that I've talked to since COVID have been like, oh well, I just never went back.
That's a good
So it's like
point.
that
That's a
was the
really good point
excuse.
that, yeah.
Yeah, that was the excuse to
One,
not go back to church.
once they weren't hypnotized by the droning on of it, they were like, wait a minute, I don't know if I need that. I kind of am getting more of a collective vibe, because it's kind of like we've been able to communicate digitally to get back to our analog selves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like we get all this interconnectivity digitally, and it's just taking us back to an
Just to
organic
come
human
back
being.
to, yeah. And it's like
You know
because
what I'm
even
saying?
now a
Like
lot of
we're
people are
reconnecting with that. I
so,
find that interesting. Yeah.
yeah. And
Hmm.
it's like the more, like, we love our technology, the more and more we grow, but it's also we grow more and more tired of it. Like we're trying to find more and more ways to disconnect from it. So it's just those cyclical, just those cyclical movements of how we can. And it's not really just cyclical, it's more like a spiral, going up type of thing.
Hmm.
Well, do you agree with this? I think everyone needs their temple, whether the temple be within yourself that you take with you all the time, or the temple be your home, or the temple be the trees, or the temple be an actual temple, and you go and do
The
your
whole Earth is a
honoraries.
temple. The whole Earth
Yeah.
is a temple floating in
Yeah,
Yeah.
space,
I mean,
and
yeah.
ultimately,
anything
I
on
will
it's a
say
temple. So
this.
do what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, that ultimately, I mean, if you're referring to temple as like kind of like your safe space, your place to,
Well, it's
um,
a mentality. It's a
yeah,
mentality. Is
technically,
the
at the end of
sacred
it
the
all,
sacred
you
around.
should be able to go within for that. Technically, at the end of it all, as you start to ascend, you find less and less reasons to go outside of yourself. So you may not need the physical building of the temple. You can really make that connection. Now, me personally, I still enjoy going to church sometimes. I like going to the Pentecostal church and having a good old praise and
Mhm,
worship and dancing and moving that energy around. And that's what really is the feel good of it all. It's not that
mhm.
there's some spirit there. No, you're just moving all this energy, reconnecting with your higher self. And that's why you leave feeling so good. That's why people, oh, I felt the spirit. No, you felt your higher self. That's what you felt.
Well, and
So,
another thing is there are many, many words that describe bliss, right? Every
mm-hmm,
culture has a moment where human becomes bliss, where, earthly consciousness becomes illuminated, where the self becomes all things, the connection, that big open moment where all the frequencies are flowing around and it's a higher state of mind, right? And if we all have different words for it and we're all talking about the same thing, I think that it is nice to have a little bit more energy consciousness and less dogma.
mm-hmm,
You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
we teach children dogma. You're talking about being educated or being an educator. I can see education moving towards more energy work, more energy consciousness, not from a
Mm-hmm.
specific tradition, but just levels of consciousness and awareness. Um, that might be a little bit better for children to learn or young adults to learn and then move forward in that energy connection. I don't even know if we're doing it in schools. I think we might just be doing it online. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even
Yeah,
know,
not yet. I mean, I
like,
know I've
where
been
where
working
is our
on.
school?
Yeah, I've
you
been
know?
working on trying to get, and it's hard to get curriculum into the schools. Even on that, they do have a push now for some social and emotional learning type curriculum. So, that's a thing. I think as far as though with language and with words, I think that I think we just need less words. I think we need to, as humans, we need to, a lot of people do these food fast and fast. We need to fast from communicating. We need to close our mouths and just really stop talking so much. We have all these words and no, don't call me this, I'm that. It's I pray to God, no, I pray to the universe, no, it's this. Like, it's just chaos. It's just another means of dividing and separating us. And the truth is that the most advanced civilizations, the most conscious, the most aware, the most ascended civilizations, they communicate telepathically. They don't utilize words. So I do go into that a lot in the book as well,
Like
on
the Lemurians and
whether or
the
not
Atlanteans.
language was a gift or a
Can
curse.
I get in there, Cameo? Cameo, let me
Yeah.
get in there. Like the Lemurians and the Atlanteans, you're talking about. The ancient societies you were just talking about.
Hmm. Yeah. What about
Is
what?
that what I said? Like the Lemurians and the
Oh
Atlanteans.
yeah,
They
them.
did
Yeah,
telepathic
the Lemurians, the
communication.
Atlanteans. I'm also speaking of
You mentioned that in the book, so yeah,
other,
and I'm
yeah,
aware of both of
other
those. Yeah.
other civilizations. Intergalactic, outer, interstellar. All that. Those types of
Those would
beings.
be earthly ones, but yeah, outside
Yeah.
the Palladians and Ceruleans and all
Yeah,
that
but
jazz.
yeah, they and even humans, the some of the more ancient uh versions of the human avatar, they did not have language capability, going back billions of years. That came along probably a couple 100,000 years ago.
I
So,
apologize for Kurt Russell. He is been trying
oh,
to get
where's
my
Kurt
attention.
Russell? Let me see Kurt
I'll go get
Russell.
him. I'll go get
I
him.
was thinking about him the
Yeah, and
other
He's
I
day.
been over here the whole time. You can't see him. He's yelling at me the whole time. Here he is.
and cats
This guy.
also, there's a lot of telepathy with these little buggers.
Yes,
So I've
yes.
I've had plenty of experiences with animals looking at me like, yeah, bro, I know what you're talking about. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like they'll look at you and they tell you a whole
Yeah, cats
story. You
are
don't
very
even have to ask them a question.
multidimensional, as they say. Yeah,
Yeah.
they can see.
Hmm.
I know the very first time that I had an experience with dimension shifting and being able to see um, uh, some of the other dimensions that are stacked here with us, and it's like, and now I understand, and being able to see that, I can understand why my cat would just be looking around and doing all this weird stuff, because there is stuff to see there. If you have the capability of seeing interdimensionally, there is, like, it's like the room is full of stuff.
Sure.
And
Yeah, I
like,
saw a
just,
lot of that as a
He's
kid. I was wondering what that
he's
did
was. I'm
you
sure my
he's
cat did too.
upstairs sleeping, and then I get on this pod, and now he's like, "Rah, rah, rah," like
tell me
yelling at
about
me. I'm
what you
like,
used
what?
to see as a kid? What was your experience as a kid?
Well, I used to lay awake, well, half awake in my room, and the room would just fill up with a lot of energy waves and colors and
Colors,
patterns,
yeah. Have you ever seen
and
like
I
a
would
twisted,
see
like twisted vertebrae, almost like going, I
like a
don't know.
DNA situation. Yeah, I mean, I
It looked
saw it,
like a
and I also
helix.
used to
It
press.
was weird.
Yeah, like the double helix, like the DNA. A lot of that stuff, when I would press on my eyes and see into my inner space, I would see a lot of
Okay.
symbols and stars and a lot of things that I learned about later. I had already seen as a kid because I was already
Wow.
re-downloading. Like I had techniques kind of embedded in my consciousness that no one was teaching me.
Hmm.
That I had these
Things
little
you were
methods
doing
to
and you
get
weren't
out.
even conscious that you were
Yeah,
doing it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I had
yeah.
no idea
That's
what it
so
He
was
funny you
until
draws
I
them
said.
on
was
my
on.
porch when he's here. He draws them on my porch.
That's so
I
funny you were
do,
talking about when
I
you
do.
squeeze the eyes, because I always thought I was a little crazy or weird, but when I squeeze my eyes closed, the first thing I see is these bright flashes of light, and then I see geometric shapes, usually pentagons.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
don't.
it's the
It's
hypnagogic visuals that we all can see. And a lot of times people see them when they're on LSD or mushrooms or whatever hallucinogen they want to partake with. And I was basically just pushing 0 to 60 on LSD and then being on a full trip and then coming back into my room. And I'm like, yeah, dinner's ready. Great. I'll see you in a minute. Like that's so a lot of that
I think you're
happens.
both similar. That you both go like shooting right to the stratosphere, and I keep it like just above like terra
Right.
firma a little bit. So I see a lot of
Yes.
human spirits. I see a lot of
Right.
people trapped in Sheol and that
mm,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
And
Yeah.
talking about
mm,
Sheol, like with the Merkaba or the
Mhm.
triangle, when you talk about the the triangle up being as above and then the triangle down being so below, a lot of those Hermetic teachings are also embedded in the way that you spoke
Hmm.
in your book. And I always dig that because it's a very logical, philosophical way of looking at the universe that always makes me feel very balanced when I read about it. So I've always liked
Yeah.
Well,
that.
the
And I
DNA
like that.
helix is the catechus as well.
Hmm.
Right.
The
There's
Hermetic
so many
symbol of the
connections. Yeah.
catechus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's, and that's the thing with the universe. It's and that's part of what they talk about, the veil of the matrix.
Mhm.
All these things are right here in front of you. It's all right under your nose.
Mhm.
Right.
It's all right in plain sight. But we've got this veil and we're not paying attention. We're not seeing things. We're not making these connections. And so we feel because we're not making these cosmic connections, we just constantly feel disconnected and are constantly
Right.
searching for things. So
And I think the more we find ourselves, like the inner self, that's connected to everything else, the nicer we'll treat each other.
Oh, for sure.
yeah, because
Well,
what happens when you connect
Because
to your higher self, in my experience, is that when the universe you start to receive the information, you start to understand your existence. And when you really understand what we're here for and what this is really all about, you have no choice but to be kind to your neighbor, to, you know what I'm saying? You're not fooled by the illusion of the matrix and the fact
and
that we're separate.
the
Yes,
fear,
and the fear.
right? The
Yes,
fear is
yes.
what creates the separation. Is they say these people over here are whack, we're dope, don't like those guys, and it's
Right.
just so much
mhm.
fear based because it has nothing to do with how we actually feel. You see a bunch of people of all different races and everybody dancing at a concert. They don't care about what their books are about. They
Yeah.
care about the groove, right? They're just all
Right.
together.
Right.
So
And that fear, that
I've never
fear
understood any of that.
lives
But yeah.
within
Hmm.
the fear, and all those lower vibrational things live within the ego space of the mind. And so that is actually, I'll go ahead and give a spoiler alert. That is the elephant in the room. People are often
Right.
talking about mind, body,
Right.
soul, mind, body, soul. Nobody wants to talk about the ego. As soon as you start talking about ego, people, the ego will shut you down. It will just, they don't want to
But the
Yeah.
hear
groove,
it,
the groove is in the heart, though. The groove is in
The
the heart.
groove is in the heart, buddy.
You see what I mean?
Grooves
Yeah.
in heart. Yeah, you got
Oh,
it, bud.
that used to be
Yes.
my jam. What was that? B-52s?
Oh, it
Yeah.
was my jam. Oh my god.
It is the
I'm
jam.
not
That
even.
if that played right now, I'd
I
be
met her one
a
time,
dancing
and I
fool.
kind of yeah, I didn't like her DJing, but we had a
Yeah,
little
but we
argument.
need to
Yeah,
we need to
Lady
be sharing.
Bucare
I'm really
didn't
glad
turn
that
out
there's
well.
so many podcasts like this, and we really need to be sharing
Mhm.
what these esoteric experiences look like, because as it relates to unwellness, there are a lot of
Mhm.
people right now that are hocked up on dope and locked up in a loony bin, all because they weren't able to identify or clearly understand certain spiritual gifts. You may not really be crazy. You may not, yeah, you might be hearing things, but they may not be, it's not telling
Well,
you to
there's a
kill
line.
somebody,
Yeah,
then
there's a big deal. There's a line between schizophrenia and being psychic, and a lot of
Mhm.
neurodiversity and
Yeah.
spiritual and mystical attunements. And I will
yeah.
tell you, I'm obviously Darren's a reader and worked at the shop I work at, and a lot of the readers that I work with, most of them are neurodiverse. Most of them have had some type of mental
Mhm.
kind of difference labeled on them, whether
Hmm.
it's, being autistic or ADHD or whatever it is. But a lot of these neuro mystical people, as I like to
Hmm.
call them,
Neuromystical. I
nobody
like
steal
that.
that. It's mine, by the way. So the neuro mystical in us, right? The neuro mystical is that state of mind that we all share, but a lot of times neurodiverse people have a little bit more of that piled on just to start with, and
Hmm.
their antennas, because they're channeling so much in different aspects of their brain, and they have more things lit up in their brain that they're processing. A lot of that processing also includes metaphysical content, and
And
we're not taught how to deal with it. And also,
mhm.
if it's screwed on a little funky, there's no shaman around, there's no Darren around, there's no anybody around to help
Right.
you fix it, because we're
Right.
not taught how to fix it, so we end
Right.
up
And most people are
imbalanced.
dropped into families that, like, most people with really intense spiritual gifts are dropped into families where there are none. So nobody
Right.
around you, your family, your sisters, brothers, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand, and they're going
and
to
and
label
if
you
and if
crazy.
they check you in, they treat a lot of that stuff with ketamine now, or like God forbid, like
Oh
something,
God, the cat
and it's
tranquilizer?
like. Yeah,
Yep.
they use like they micro or macro dose ketamine to people that are
Sure.
like bugging out like that. So you got to think, if you were bugging out at first, And now what are you
Right.
going to do after they give you ketamine, you know?
Well, and some of those trials, from what I've heard, is that, the
Mhm.
ketamine, the MDMA, the LSD, the mushrooms, all of them are re-emerging as healer agents, which they
Yeah.
originally were. But the way that we're doing it is maybe we're steps away from really finding a great way to do it. But the platform for it is there. And I do believe also for myself that the hallucinogenic properties in these substances are intelligences that can also meld with our intelligences and help us move through maybe what has bothered us from the matrix or our relationships or the way that we've communed with the world, and
Yeah, it can
actually
kind of
really clear
retune
a
our
lot of that up.
frequency. Yeah.
Right, it's a purification process. And I mean, I don't know about ketamine. I have heard some weird stuff about that, but there's a lot of really good modalities
Well,
out there, and that's
I'm
great.
saying if you're bugging out and you're seeing stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah,
someone
yeah.
is going to let me help you, let me give you some ketamine on top
Right,
of that.
trip out even further.
Yeah,
Right,
just
yeah,
go. Now you're just like, wow, way
right,
out
right.
there.
You know, I
Well,
mean,
because
just
then there's no
for
understanding.
full
Yeah.
transparency, I may could say that some of these downloads and some things kind of started
Mhm.
around some, some Molly, my friend Molly, and
Sure.
things like that. So
Sure.
there were
Sure.
now I will say this though, once they started, I was very particular about I stopped drinking, smoking weed, like nothing,
Yeah.
like no alcohol, no
Sure.
You want
meat,
it to
no
be a
Right.
nothing.
clear
Just I
channel,
needed to be a clear
Right.
signal. But
clear channel,
Right.
clear
but when
vessel
it
for it.
started, I've had some other downloads that came and writing sessions for days and days that,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
There's most
So
of our
what?
modern religions are based on trips that people had. So yeah, we
Mhm.
get it.
So, what's our takeaway on this on our book here? What can
Yeah.
someone expect if they purchase this wonderful hardbound book? Again, the elephant in the room, understanding the truth of our existence. What can they expect? What could there to just take away, or what would be the gift given by this book?
They can expect to change their lives. They can
Mhm.
expect to activate and awaken to their true and highest potential. And
Escape
but
the
I'm not
matrix.
going to, but I'm not, yes, and escape the matrix at the end of it
Beautiful,
is the goal,
beautiful.
yes, to escape the
Okay,
matrix.
so
Mhm.
again, we really appreciate you being on the show and taking the time.
Yeah.
Please pick up this book. I think it's if you just want to get a vibe for thinking outside the box and just getting yourself out of the matrix a little bit and thinking about what else is out there. This would do it in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
And I think,
It's the
and let me
levels.
just add this. Let me just add one thing.
Hmm.
I think that the book is going to be something different for each individual. There's always a
Sure,
remembering and an activation that
sure.
we all have. So, what it'll be for you may be different than what it'll be for him. So, yeah.
Well,
Beautiful.
there's room for
Beautiful.
notes, so it is an
Mhm.
interactive experience. So I
Yes.
really
Right.
did enjoy that. And again, if you want to look things up, there's a bibliophile in the form of QVCs and stuff like that, QR codes. So it's really fantastic.
And
So
we will
Cam,
link you. We will link you at the bottom.
we
Okay.
will link.
Perfect.
Yeah, all you can
Okay.
find
Yes.
a lot of this in the show notes.
Yeah.
And again, keep an eye out for the lady philosopher Cameo T. Clark. She will
Hmm.
be bringing us more books and things. What's your project you have
Yes.
coming up that you mentioned to me earlier this week?
Oh yeah, so the next project that should be available here this week is I've created an app with the help of AI. I can't
Mhm.
even believe I did it.
Yeah.
I got technical help from AI to try to put this together, but I created an app, and basically, if Get Out of Your Own Way was an app, this is it. And basically, what this app
Hmm.
does is it's called SoulSync, and it
Uh-huh.
is subliminal affirmations for self mastery. So essentially, 95% of everything that goes on with us happens on a subconscious level, that ego and all of that. And
Right. Right.
so, what subliminals do where regular affirmations and meditation may fail is that subliminals go straight in to the subconscious mind and don't give you the opportunity to argue with the positive affirmations that are being put in. So it just kind of lets you take
Oh,
back the
beautiful.
power of what you're feeding your mind.
Beautiful.
Love
That
that.
sounds great.
That's
That
great.
sounds
And
awesome.
you
Great.
can start
I'd
and
be
you can
one to do
start
that. Some.
reprogramming. That's the next step. Like once you're out of the matrix, once you realize it's there, and you deprogram from all the lies and everything, you got to reprogram with the positive things that you need to move forward in a healthy and
Right.
positive way.
Fill that cup back up with your own energy. Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Your own
Let's
Yep.
do it.
positivity.
Yep. So,
And
and
we
it'll be
all need more
available on the
positivity
Google.
lately,
Yeah, it'll be
for
on the,
sure.
available on the Google and Apple Play Store. I'll be constantly building out the library. There's a place on it where you can suggest a subliminal if you're working on something or struggling with something, and you need me to create one. I'll
Well,
create
they
one.
need to know the name of
Oh
the app.
yeah, it's
What's the
called
name of the?
SoulSync, and each subliminal is recorded by me. It incorporates binaural beat frequencies. And
Uh-huh.
the other really cool thing about SoulSync is that different from a lot of the other meditation and mindfulness apps is that you can get background tracks. You can get different background tracks for each affirmation, and it comes in everything from piano, classical piano to trap music. So
Dope.
Okay.
Dope.
it's not all the boring
Get soul
meditation
synced
stuff,
with some trap music and
yeah,
stuff.
trap
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on,
music,
man. A little
Bollywood,
trap
Yeah.
Bollywood
wouldn't
I'm
hurt,
the
beats,
right?
best.
and
Sure,
yeah.
I'm
why
the
not?
best. Got it going. I'm the best. I'm the best.
So
I mean,
yeah,
Oh
like,
so
my
yeah,
I'm
gosh.
really,
got it
Well,
going on,
hey,
man. Yeah,
excited.
that's great.
I'm really
you
excited,
know,
and
you know,
thank
I
you so
got
much for
love for
having
you,
me.
and now Firewalker got love for you, and I gotta
Indeed,
say, you
man.
two definitely, oof, y'all be doing it. So,
Yes, sir.
but we got to have you back when your next book comes out. Again,
Yes,
Mm.
keep an eye out there for Soul Sync. And again, the elephant in the room. Thanks again, Cameo, and we'll see you
yes.
again
Thank you for
on
having
Walking
me.
the
Namaste
Crossroads.
to everyone. God
Indeed.
bless.
Namaste.